Hey there, it's Mark, and I'm so excited for today's video because today I'm going to be setting up my 7th bullet journal. It's absolutely insane to think that I've made it through number 6 here, which was the square bullet journal from Archer and Olive. I have all of my old ones behind me, and I actually had to count them twice because to think that I'm going to be on number 7 already is kind of intense. That's a lot of pages and that's a lot of notebooks. So I'm going to be moving into a different size. The 8x8 was awesome. I loved it. Perfect between that A5 size and not too big with the B5 size, as I have tried one before, but I had to go back to my classic A5. So the one that I ended up choosing, ready for this? It should be no surprise because I was very hyped about it recently, but I am going with, I call it the Drip, but that's not its actual name, but it's the collaboration notebook from Elizabeth Gray and Archer Olive that was just released not that long ago. A5 size, dual faux leather on the front. You'll see the drip right here. That's why I call it the Drip. Really cool foil pattern here and also the gilded edges. So in today's video, what I'll be doing is setting up my index. We'll be doing the future log. Also our May overview, because this will officially start in May. It worked out just perfectly. And also my first weekly spread. And I'll also show you my resource page that has all of the grid breakdowns for this A5 notebook. I did it in my 8x8 and I'm going to be doing it probably in every notebook moving forward. So we'll talk through that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Bullet journal number 7 right here, right now.
Sad to see you go 8x8, but there's a new boy in town. His name is A5 Galaxy Dot Grid Notebook, aka the Drip, and he's here to do amazing things. This is what I'll be starting May 2021, working through the end of this year and likely into 2022. As I mentioned, this is the collaboration notebook from Elizabeth Gray, also known as The Greater Good, and Archer and Olive. And once I had this notebook in my hands, I knew it was going to be my next one. So the first thing that we're going to do is set this up and let this notebook know its new owner. And that's me, Mark Fig, also known as Men Who Bullet. That was a lot of AKAs, so let's go ahead and get started with the index. The index is the brain of the operation when it comes to bullet journaling. It's one of my favorite pages to do, and the first page that you should set up for yourself inside of your bullet journal. To celebrate Liz and this amazing design, I'm keeping this drip theme going on as I get into this. So I'll use the black Tombow marker for the larger drip space and the silver acrylic graph pen from Archer and Olive for the lettering. I also have some very fine tip fine liners that I'll be using for a lot of my smaller headers, in this case topic and pages. This will be my first bullet journal where I've actually designed an index page. Every past one I've kept it very straightforward and very fundamental, but I just really wanted to have some fun with this one because it's the Drip, because I'm so pumped about it, and I just am in love with this design that Liz did. If you're not familiar with the bullet journal system or you're just stumbling across this video, do know that you don't have to go to this designed extreme for your index. You could simply put index as your title and then have pages and topic and split your page out that way. I have a beginner's bullet journal video, which I'll put up top here and also in the descriptions below. If you're just getting started with bullet journaling, I recommend that video because it's very much foundational and really functions on how to start with the bullet journal method. Not that this isn't the right way to do it, but there is an extra level of design that I'm adding to some of these pages as I get it started. I did notice I forgot to fill in the inside of the D, so let's just do that real quick before we finish out the page. And the last detail on this front page is filling in topic and pages. I use at least 3 to 4 pages inside of my index in every single notebook. So for all of the pages that follow that first one, I'm keeping it very basic. You could honestly use this design for your entire index and it would function just as well as any other. I've marked it out so topic is over on the left-hand side and pages on the right. The next core collection page that we're going to set up is going to be the future log. This is where you set up your event and tasks for the entire year and for the future for planning, as well as migrating things back to if you don't need them. For this page, you'll see I continued through with my drip design throughout the year. I also have a note section on the right to catch other things, and I'm trying my hand at Liz's signature font that she uses. I still want to work on it because I really love the way that it looks. I'm going to continue along with some of the patterns that we have on the front of this notebook, the stars and these dots and circles. I think it looks really nice. And I like the continuation of this theme. I don't know that I'm going to keep it the entire notebook, but at least for these first few pages that I'm setting up, I'll keep the theme rolling and see how it goes. I'll finish out drawing out the notes header here for this right-hand side and fill in some of these extra little doodles, and go ahead and use the black Tombow pen to fill in the larger drip space here to match the other pages that I have. Because I'm starting this journal in May, I don't need to put in a May date for this because all of my dates and tasks will be inside of my monthly overview. So we'll start in June. This will take me all the way through January of 2022. I don't know that this notebook will last this long because I haven't used an A5 size in a while. It differs. And also the last time I did, I had a totally different job and was using it a little bit differently as well. So each month has an overview of all of the dates as well as spaces for task and future notes. And with this page done, it's time to move to our May monthly overview page. Before we get to the design of this page, I want to show you the grid spacing cheat sheet that I built for myself in the back of this notebook. On the left-hand side of this is the vertical spacing that I have for my pages, and over on the right-hand side is the horizontal spacing that I have. I actually started doing a resource page like this in my square bullet journal. Move over here, little plant, for just a second so I don't knock you over. Because it was a square bullet journal, this spacing worked both for horizontal and vertical. And what I did is just set it up so that I'm just covering my most common spaces that I have. You can come back over now, Mr. Plant. In previous videos, you may have heard me say that I like to do easy math for my grid layouts. I don't like it to be overly complex. So the first thing I do is I count out the grid spaces in each notebook. This is A5, so there's 26 left to right and 38 top to bottom. If I want to split my page in half, I know that it's going to be 13 squares left and right. If I want to leave a little bit of space, 12 on the left, 2 spaces open in the middle with 12 on the right-hand side. And I go from there. If I want 3, it's going to be 8 spaces with 1 in between. If I want to create a 4-column grid, I'll leave 1 space on the left and the right, and it'll be 6 squares for each of those columns. All I'm really doing is just breaking this down into easy math to get as close as I can to that number for the vertical and the horizontal spacing here. And you don't have to go crazy. I don't go beyond 5 columns because that would just be really, really thin columns. For the vertical spacing, I'll probably set this up a little bit differently and face these numbers vertically when I actually draw this in, but I take the same approach here. If I want to split my page in half, there'll be 19 squares left and right. If I want to leave some space, if I need 3 rows, I have a nice and easy 12, 1, 12, 1, 12 setup here. I also have another variant with 11 with 2 spaces in between that I can move around if I need to with 1 on the end. My 4 row is a nice and easy 1 top and bottom with 9 squares for each of those. And I just go from there and create the variances that work the most for me. I am not going to usually go beyond 5 just because these spaces get very small. I'm going to automatically fill in all of the rest of these lines and numbers in just a minute with some movie magic, but the first thing I'm going to do is fill in the header on my right-hand side for my grid space cheat sheet. That is a mouthful. Say that 5 times fast. I'm going to use Liz's iconic type again for this and put in some of the extra fun to continue that theme from the rest of the journal. So let's go ahead for that movie magic. Bazinga. There we go. Everything is filled in. I did change up that left-hand side to create those numbers vertically for myself for easy reference. It just makes it a lot easier. Now that we took that detour and set up our resource page, it's time to head back to our monthly overview. So you can see how I set this page up. It's going to make a lot more sense now on how I figured out the spacing that I was going to use. The classic way of setting up a monthly overview are the days of the week and the dates on the left with spaces for tasks over on the right-hand side. Now the way that I'm going to set this page up is with a fun design on the left-hand side and then the 3 main areas of topics or tasks that I'll have around work, home, and social. Because I don't need any extra space on the left-hand side, I need my 3 rows for the right-hand side. So I go back to my cheat sheet here in the back. I see 3-row count. It's going to be 12 squares with 1 in between each of those. Makes it really easy to set up my page. So what I did here was just build out those spaces using that reference page with pencil. Now I can quickly go in with my marker and go over those lines. For the left-hand side, I'm going to be using one of my custom mini stamps that I have, which is this cool paper airplane. I've been really big into stamping recently and creating my own. You can check out the video above for that. To do this, what I'm going to do is make it look like this paper airplane is flying around the page. But in just a second, what you'll see is that it will turn into the number 5, which will stand for May. I'm trying to make this thing work out here and keep this thing going. Any way to use these stamps. And I'm going to continue that theme over on the right-hand side, just adding that extra piece of decor around each one of those main topics. I'll go ahead and fill in each of these titles with my thin micron pen. And then we can move on to my first weekly of this brand new bullet journal, and specifically for the month of May. The traditional way of a bullet journal is just keeping a daily log and rapid logging through that. But because I use my bullet journal mostly for work, I like to have my week at a glance as well as space for rapid logging for each of the days. So I like to mix it. So across the top, I'll have Monday through Friday for each of the days of the week. And then down on the bottom is where I'll do my rapid logging. So to set this up, I need to create 6 columns. So we'll go back in the back here and set up 3 columns for the left and right page, 8 spaces with 1 in between. And then we'll cut the bottom into halves for rapid logging, which will be 13 spaces on the left and the right hand side. That will cover us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with a space for a weekend spot on the end, and then these 2 spaces down here for the rapid logging. I'm going to continue with my paper airplane theme for this first week in May, mostly because I want to get the maximum use out of the custom stamp that I made. One of the reasons that I started making my own stamps is just because I don't feel personally like I'm awesome at doodling, and especially not doodling the same thing over and over again. So a stamp is a really great way to get that same image every single time. And also, stamp carving is super fun. If you want to check this out at the end of the video, I'll pop a link in here to show you how to make your own rubber stamps. An easy plug for last week's video. And then we'll go ahead and draw in all of the lines here. The last thing will be the date and the day of the week for each one of these main areas, and this last one for the weekend I'll just split in half. Personally, I don't use a lot of weekend time unless there's something going on with the kids or maybe we're traveling somewhere, so I don't always give each day its own space. I'll go ahead and clean up just some of these pencil marks on this page, and then we are totally set up for our very first weekly in our brand new bullet journal. Now what I want to do is go back through, and I need to number my pages to get things up and running. I'm not going to number every single page. I do that as I go along with this notebook, but I do want to show you how you take that and use them in your index, because that's one of the most important habits, I think, of bullet journaling, is making sure that your pages make it back into your index. So I'll put page number 1 over here on the bottom right, and I'm going to put the topic, which is my index, and my index takes up page 1, 2, and 3. So I'll go back to the index and write those page numbers over on the right hand side. I'll go ahead and do that for all of the other pages that we set up today. My future log covers page 4 and 5. My May monthly overview is going to be 6 and 7. And then my first weekly spread is going to be 8 and 9. Because I have my resource page in the very back of my journal, I'm not going to add that to my index, but I know that it's here and I am going to be using this heavily as I set up the rest of my bullet journal and get things going.
I love setting up new notebooks. It's one of my favorite parts of bullet journaling, is just being able to wipe the slate clean and start fresh, and this is going to be the freshest one around. I'm so excited for this notebook. If you'd like to check out other setups, if you've never set up a bullet journal before, I actually have a really great video for you that steps you through step by step of every single part of a new notebook, whether it's in a dot grid or otherwise. You can check that up here. I'll also link it in the descriptions below, and all the materials that you saw in today's video too, I'll drop them in the descriptions, including any of the other notebooks from Archer and Olive. If you didn't know, I am a part of their design team and an affiliate, so if you want to use and get any of their products, stamps, acrylographs, or notebooks, I have a special discount code that you can use, which is menwhobullet10, and that'll get you 10% off any order from now and forever. So it works out really well. Thank you so much for checking out today's video. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.